Hey CSE, it's Mr. Taylor. This is the lesson for March 20th, Friday. Today we are looking to draw thematic connections between text and the real world and the dystopian fiction you've read. And to do that, you're going to complete a free write about your experience with the pandemic we're experiencing right now. And the second part of the activity is going to be to reflect on that experience and identify some dystopian motifs that you see in it. So let's jump right in. First, as a quick review, I'm going to be including this reference sheet for you guys from the NCTE, or National Council of Teachers of English. It includes a refresher on what dystopias are, and we have discussed this before, but remember it's sort of an imagined awful place, kind of a worst case scenario world, and then it has some useful characteristics listed here that will help you guys to sort of pick out things in your own experience that you can identify. So let's just jump into what you guys are actually going to be doing. I did some of this in advance, just for the sake of time here to keep it quick for you guys. First thing you're going to want to do, fill in your name. Your period, I just used B1 as an example. If you're B4, use B4. And then let's look at part one. So part one is that free write on your current experience. This can be any form. You can do a narrative, free verse poem, free form reflection, but it should show specific detail and it should follow standard English conventions. So what I'm modeling for you guys, what I'm showing you is it's a narrative sort of combined with a reflection. That's fine if you want to mix the genres there. That's okay. So I just sort of go through. It's almost a day in the life, right? Sort of explaining what I've been experiencing today. So I woke up today to a gray sky, with a heavy mist obscuring trees in the rear of my backyard. So yours can be much like this. And this sort of sets the mood, right? This heavy mist, gray sky, it's sort of dreary, sort of sets the tone for what we're talking about here, which is the sort of the morose sort of feeling we're probably experiencing right about now. So explain, I check my phone when I get up. I don't know if that's what you guys do, but I usually go to news pretty quickly, especially these days. And I just talk about some things that I'm seeing, right? And you guys can totally do this too. This is part of your experience, is what you're seeing out in the media. So I'm seeing testing backups, which has been a big problem with us getting a handle on the crisis. News study showing actually younger people, so ages like 20 to 40 something, experiencing higher needs of hospitalization. And then just some social media personalities coming out and basically yelling at people for going to South Padre Island and, basically increasing the spread of the virus. So, I just walk through my day, right? I make my way downstairs, need to sort of give myself a schedule. I've been prioritizing for myself, just trying to stay physically active. I hope you guys are finding some way to stay active. I'm on a lifting protocol right now. So today's day was deadlift and military press. And it's just, this is just an opportunity. I feel very fortunate to be able to exert myself physically, take my mind off the chaos that's accumulating out in the outside world. So it's important to do that, I feel like. And a lot of this, this is all in the I, first person, which is, totally fine. This is a personal reflection. You can do the same. And, I jump on my laptop. This is the way that I'm interacting with the outside world now, is through Google Classroom and, email and texting and things like that. It's almost like I'm in space, right? Can't go outside. And so I'm trying to give some feedback. Got a bunch of papers coming in, this being the end of the quarter. And so I'm trying to give feedback. Of course, it's kind of surreal, right? And it's like, this isn't what school's usually like. Usually, you come to class, you're interacting with other people personally. But that's where we're at. And then we sort of decided a couple days ago, my wife and I, that spring break for us was going to be to go out of state to do some climbing, but the area that we were sort of looking at is the Red River Gorge has been overrun with college students and people about that age because they're all off too. And actually, those places, a lot of them have told people not to come just because it's it's dangerous, right? And indeed, another thing that's been sort of rumbling is that there's going to be domestic travel restrictions coming down from the federal government. So we're sort of wary of that, and we had to cancel in order to get a refund on the Airbnb. So that's why we did that. And then also just consider it, right? What's the right thing to do here, right? So if you're young, chances are you could be carrying this virus without even showing symptoms. You guys could be the same, right? Which is why places like schools and other big gathering areas are shut down, because people feel totally fine, but they can walk around and give this to other people who are more at risk, older folks and the like. So they call these stealth carriers, which is just something to keep in mind too. So this is just my reflection, right? Just kind of going through my activities and thoughts over the course of the day. And you guys can do something much like this, but if you want to do a poem instead or something a little different, that's okay. This does meet the sentence requirement, 10 sentence. If you're going to do like a poem, if you can have, about 10 lines of, 8 to 10 words or so, that would meet the requirement as well. And then let's look at this second part. So at least 5 sentences explain what about your experience makes it dystopian. Okay, and so to do this, again, I'm going to bounce back to this reference that I gave you guys, looking at these characteristics of a dystopian society and trying to identify some of these that came out in your reflection, right? So some of these don't really apply. I don't think, at least in my example, that propaganda was really being used. There's a lot of arguments that Fox News is propaganda, things like that. And you can make that argument. It didn't really show up in my reflection, though, so I'm not going to talk about it. Let's see if we can talk about one of these characteristics that does come up. Citizens have a fear of the outside world. Okay, definitely. And, so one characteristic apparent in, and I should say one dystopian in my experience, is that people have great fear of the outside world. And then I think so. Identify the characteristic first, and then sort of what specifically connects. So, my wife and I are afraid. I think that's fair to travel outside of the state and possibly spread the virus. Okay, I think that's that's enough of a connection there. And yeah, there's a lot of fear. Honestly, I go out and I was in the store the other day, and it's crazy being in Walmart and just seeing all the employees have gloves on, and some people are in the store wearing masks, and everybody's wiping down their carts and stuff. It's people do sort of fear being in those public spaces. So, let's see. Citizens conform to uniform expectations. I think that is fair. Let's get back into the model. Another characteristic present is that it's a strong pressure to conform to the government's to maintain social distancing. I'm sure this is a term you guys have heard many times before. Right, maintain social distance. In my own experience, this is shown by the fact that I can't work out in a gym with, I'm going to say public. Because there would be too many people together. So again, connecting that to my own experience. I'm just going to use one more here. Draw that connection. Let's see if there's anything more. So, I don't know if we're in a dehumanized state. You know what? I do think, sort of thinking back on this, propaganda used to control the citizens. You know, I do think some of the things, and I could go back and sort of revise this a little bit, because I do recall seeing things, you know, in the media about Trump and some other conservative commentators talking about this being a hoax, this whole pandemic being a hoax, and so, and now this is sort of being walked back because the crushing reality is that it's not a hoax, right? Walking back. So I think, you know, this whole idea of trying to calm people down and keep up with business as usual, to sort of keep people under control and essentially modify their behavior by this administration at certain points has taken on a form of propaganda. So I see, or I have seen, efforts by, I'll be respectful of President Trump's to control people's thoughts on the pandemic by labeling it hoax. Yeah, and I think that definitely would serve as a good connection in a dystopian situation. So this would be a full credit response. I think there's definitely enough detail here to satisfy that. Definitely meets the sentence requirements. The grammar is all tip top. It's pretty good. I'm just fixing the boxes here so it looks a little bit better. And yeah, it just gives me a chance. And I'm hoping it gives you guys a chance to just sort of process maybe a little bit what's going on with our society, right? It's sort of a crazy time. So again, hope everybody's staying safe. And I look forward to seeing what you write about for these reflections. Take care.